Welcome back, everybody, to another mock draft. As always, I'm your guy, Alec Elijah. I know I am about 2 days delayed on this. As usual, we're supposed to get our mock draft Monday, and I did have a couple people actually message me, so I do appreciate that, by the way. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and get this one out. I've just been swamped with homework. This semester has been a lot more taskful than I honestly anticipated. But nonetheless, again, we're still going to go ahead and get this mock draft out. We have seen some changes on the board, as we can see. Last mock draft, we had my New England Patriots at 1. Now they're currently at 6. So kind of ruining the tank that I was hoping we were going for. But still some great teams that need quarterbacks. Quarterbacks probably going to be the reoccurring theme for this specific mock draft. Over under right now, I have it at about 3. I see about 3 quarterbacks definitely going in the first. For the sake of this mock draft, we might have about 4 or 5 going in the first round. Not saying that they're all worth a first round selection, but they're playing some really good football right now, and there's a couple quarterbacks that I think could definitely rise up the board and potentially find themselves in the first round. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate everybody that is already subscribed. Appreciate everybody, actually, because we did finally hit 150 subscribers. So thank you to everybody who has clicked subscribe. Thank you to everybody that has supported me along the way. Again, be sure to smash that subscribe button if you aren't already. We are aiming to have some of the best college football content on YouTube and on Instagram as well. Be sure to follow me there as well. CFB Alec Elijah, AlecElijah. But again, we're going to get into this mock draft here. And at number 1, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars today. And typically, I would, normally go Travis Hunter. That's kind of been the route that we've been headed for. But I'm gonna be completely honest. Wide receiver wise, it seems like the Jags are pretty taken care of. They have BTJ who they can get behind now as a 1. Cornerback wise, is Travis gonna play full-time corner at the NFL level? That's gonna be completely, obviously, up to him once we get to that stage of the draft. Right now, he's projected as, a 70-30 kind of guy, 70 on offense, 30 on defense. But with that being said, still some great players that we can kind of decipher from. Guard and tackle being a huge need. We can definitely take a look at the best tackle, maybe even the best guard of his draft class. Will Campbell, who is projected to play guard at the next level, but listed as a tackle in the draft because of where he plays at now in college football. It could be a great selection here. As we can see, he is terrific when it comes to snaps and having a motor. 6'6", 323 pounds. I think I've raved multiple times about him being just an absolute unit, and it doesn't shock me that he could go number 1 in the draft. Again, I've been very high on Travis as the number 1 pick, but in terms of fit and stuff like that, just don't see where he fits with the Jaguars. They could go corner there with Will Johnson as the CB1. But I just think at this point now, you kind of just got to find protection for Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Not only that, but you kind of want to just have a franchise piece on the line that you can sort of build around. And again, to just help Trevor Lawrence in the long run. Getting into the Giants, Dion has already said that he's going to step in if a wrong team selects Shedeur Sanders. He's also said that for Travis Hunter. Do I think that he's going to let the New York Giants draft Shedeur Sanders? No. Do the Giants care? No. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to whatever happens between, Dion and Giants owner. That's going to be a conversation down the road. At this point, because I really feel like Shedeur's just not going to be a New York Giant, I'm not going to make that selection. Again, right now, he is my QB1 for this class. It's kind of been, just back and forth between him and Cam Ward. As of right now, I definitely have Shedeur as my quarterback 1. But with the recent rise of popularity and draft stock in Jalen Milroe, I can definitely see New York taking a chance on a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Milroe. They haven't had a dual threat quarterback in a minute. Definitely a different type of look that they would get compared to what Daniel Jones gave them. And some of the weapons that they have on the Giants could honestly prosper from having a guy like Jalen Milroe. I mean, outside of Neighbors, we haven't heard anything from Jalen Hyatt, who's a big, deep threat. And Jalen Milroe being a guy that kind of likes to, throw the deep ball, and if not, tuck and run, that can work in New York. I've said it before, I don't see how Jalen Milroe, his play style fits in the NFL. Brian Dowell maybe could work it out for sure. I don't think that the Giants are going to roll with Daniel Jones anymore. It's kind of evident that this is his last season with them. So with that being said, I'm going to take Jalen Milroe as my first quarterback off the board for this mock draft because, one, he's just rising in draft stock. Two, his play style could sort of fit in New York. And three, this is a big one for me. Teams are going to call Saban. Like, they're going to call Nick, and they're going to ask him what they think of Jalen Milroe, and he's going to rave about his quarterback. So, without a doubt in my mind, I've said it in 2 mock drafts. I'm not sure if he's a first-round quarterback. After that last game against LSU, pretty convincing, to be honest with you. So, I definitely do think he finds himself going in the first round. Very early as well. Definitely top 15 picks for sure. He should definitely be, like I said, about 3 over-under quarterback. How many quarterbacks are going to go in this draft? He's the third quarterback that I think goes in the first round for sure. Getting into the Titans, and I don't see them going for a quarterback here. I do think that because of where they selected Will Levis, they kind of got to roll with that and just let the contract write itself out. So I think they find a weapon for Will Levis, and I think I've done this about 2 or 3 times, but we're going to stick on script here with Tataro McMillan. I don't think anybody or any wide receiver is going to take the wide receiver 1 spot from him, the 6'5" product. He is just an absolute freak of nature for his size, and he's definitely going to be the first wide receiver off the board. Like I've tried to take other wide receivers off the board outside of Travis. Travis to me is an athlete. It's not really a wide receiver or a cornerback type thing. Like, he is just generally the best athlete in the draft. And then we get into the Browns. And they're going to be another team that takes a quarterback. And again, I don't see Dion letting Shador. I don't see them, Dion letting, Trav go to the Browns. It's actually going to be interesting to see where Trav goes, especially now that Dion has said he's going to be speaking for him. Because if we look at these first 4 teams, there's no way either of those players end up at any of those franchises. At least from where, the mock draft lands right now in this order. This is definitely where we could see Cam Ward be taken off the board. Again, Achilles injury with Watson. I don't think Winston's going to be, the future of the franchise. I think you take a quarterback here. It's probably going to be Cam Ward. I had Jalen Milroe going there a couple times. So we're still going to stay on brand with the quarterback need. With Cam Ward going to the Browns. Going to be like the 30th quarterback I've seen since I've been born on the Browns. So it's going to be interesting to see. And this is where we actually start seeing Dion's voice come into play. Because I do think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a Las Vegas Raider. It's kind of a good fit for him scheme-wise. As far as player personnel and talent around him, it's there outside of the run game, but there's some talented running backs that you can definitely find. I'm going to get into that, by the way, when I do my AFC West mock draft, because the Raiders can definitely have a lot of fun in this draft. They can definitely boost their offense and find the guys that they need to fill those small gaps to make them a better team. And then we could potentially see this back-to-back. We could see Raiders go with Shedeur, and then we see my New England Patriots with Travis Hunter. Now, obviously, people might say, "Oh, well, you let him fall this low." But let's be honest with each other. Jags. Maybe you're in the running for Travis Hunter so he can be the number 1 pick. Outside of that, Giants, Dion's not letting it happen. Titans, Dion's not letting it happen. Browns, Dion's not letting it happen. Those 3 teams right there are not in the running for either of these 2 players, if we're being completely honest with each other. Yes, I understand that they have all the rights to draft them if they really want to, but these guys don't have to play for them. Eli Manning didn't have to do it. I forgot who else didn't have to do it, but most recently that I remember, Eli Manning didn't have to do it. There was another guy that didn't have to do it too, but John Elway. John Elway didn't have to do it. Hello, it's possible. Just because Dion goes on record and says that he's going to do it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. We've already seen it happen before. Believe. Deion Sanders is not letting Shedeur or Travis go to a bad team. Getting into the Saints, again, quarterback could be a need here. And this is where we start getting into what other quarterbacks could go in the first round. I like Jackson Dart. I think he's playing very good football. Carson Beck's another guy that could potentially find himself in the first round. Dylan Gabriel has been playing really good football. So it's really between those three guys. I think right here, though, Saints really don't need to be in the running for a QB. I think you can kind of find one potentially in the later rounds. You do have guys that you can essentially, trust maybe later down the line if you want to run another season back with Derek Carr. I don't see that being the case. Again, that quarterback room of Haener, Carr, and Rattler, it doesn't move any needle whatsoever. But nonetheless, we're still going to go ahead and help out the offensive line. So we can take a look at the guards and take a look at the tackles. I've said it before, there's going to be tackles that go ahead and give you that versatility of playing guard and tackle. Arante Ursary is another one of those guys. And even though Kelvin Banks and Cameron Williams are the two best tackles in this draft, two best pure tackles in this draft, we're going to take Ursary simply because of the versatility that he can offer us. And then we get into the Jets. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They need to figure out what they're going to do with Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's not looking like it's going to be, a good long-term deal for them. They do need to figure out what they want to do. There's a chance that the Jets even trade this pick. But we're going to take a look at the corners just because DJ Reed is on a contract year, could be going into free agency. There's a chance that he tests free agency, especially with Robert Saleh now being gone. A lot of those guys kind of stayed and signed again to be with Robert Saleh, or even just believed in the program, really. So I think Will Johnson could be a look here. Will Johnson and Sauce Gardner on the same defense. That spells a recipe for clamps. Like, those are two guys that you can leave on an island and really not have to worry about. And this is where I was actually getting ready to talk about all day, because I've been hating on, what is going to happen with Bryce Young. But this past game, I'm not going to lie. If they get the right head coach in there this offseason, there's a chance they keep Bryce Young. There's a chance they let him run that entire rookie contract. And it's not crazy to say, but they can go ahead and they can find him a weapon. Do you want to find someone that is a big body, or do you want to get him a slot? You have sort of, receivers that you can work with. Leggett being obviously the cornerstone wide receiver for that room. Mingo now gone. Thielen not getting any younger. Running back wise, you're pretty taken care of with Chuba. So I think a weapon for Bryce Young could be in play here. Kyron Lacey really raises an eyebrow for me as an X wide receiver. Emeka Egbuka, potentially the best slot receiver in this draft class. Luther Burden, definitely raising an eyebrow as well. Isaiah Bond, who's probably the fastest wide receiver in this draft class, at least right now on paper. Obviously, we're still waiting for guys to test. These could all be options. Trey Harris as an X could be an option. It really depends. I think Leggett is going to be, the guy that they keep as the outside receiver. He's kind of earned his keep there. So I think it's going to be between Egbuka, Burden, and Bond. Kind of somebody that you want to figure out who you're going to throw in the slot. And I'm going to be honest, I've been leaning towards Egbuka recently compared to Burden just because of the productivity from this season. I did go ahead and watch their tapes again, as I always do. And I'm still going to run with Egbuka as being the first slot receiver taken off the board. I think his routes are just extremely crisp. I think he's a savvy wide receiver, and he's going to translate very well to the NFL, barring that he can, stay healthy and not have to worry about any, lower body injuries. He's an explosive wide receiver, and I think he can make a lot of noise at the next level, as we've seen a lot of the Ohio State products do. And getting into the Dolphins, this is a no-brainer, no pun intended. Get Tua some protection. Seriously. Kelvin Banks Jr. off the board, the best pure tackle prospect in this draft class. Again, I got Campbell as just a guy that's going to play guard at the next level. Chance that he does play tackle, but that's just what he's projected at. And getting into them boys, again, another no-brainer. that running game needs help. Like we've seen the Cowboys have good run game in the past as well when they take guys in the first round. And Ashton Jeanty is well worth that first round selection. Cowboys need to make this move. They need to boost that offense. Dak needs help as well. Again, he's going to be coming off that injury, so you're going to want to definitely get a running back that you can rely on. Jeanty's that workhorse that you can definitely hand the keys to and, just let him be an RB1 as a rookie. And then we slide on over into Indianapolis, and it's just going to be secondary for them. Like, I don't think you need to focus on anything else other than the secondary. Now, you have some options here. You can go best safety available in this draft class with Malachi Starks. Could be a little bit early for a safety, as some may say, but Malachi Starks' tape does tell it all. I do think Billy Bowman does find himself rising up draft boards once he tests and everything. Kevin Winston Jr. is a guy that I've been raving about. A little bit lower in the first round, though. Malachi Stark could be the pick here. Benjamin Morrison could also be the pick here. He is one of the most talented cornerbacks in this draft. Dealing with some lingering injuries, unfortunately. Same thing can be said for Savon Ravel. Savon Ravel, if you watch his tape, he has some high-quality reps. And I think just, even bringing that up, that's obviously going to raise some eyebrows. So I think for, just the safety net for this pick, we'll take Malachi Starks, best safety in the draft class, a part of, some of the best defenses that we've seen in the past decade at Georgia. Not this season, but, seasons prior, Malachi Starks has been a focal point for that defense. And staying with the defensive trend as we get into the Bengals, I still think Trey Hendrickson does need a running mate on that defensive line. Last week he was number 1 in sacks in the NFL. I'm not too sure if he's still number 1 in sacks in the NFL. I haven't really checked the update, but we're going to take Mason Graham for the defensive line. I still don't think wide receiver is a big need, although people do think T. Higgins is going to be on the way out pretty soon. I don't think that's going to be a need. I do think, Ilyasova, or if I said his name wrong, and Jeremy Burton are going to be guys that you want to give reps to, especially as slots and wide receiver threes. Obviously, Jamar Chase is going to be that one for the foreseeable future. Granted that they pay him, but they as well, they got tight ends that are being developed. So I don't think offensively you need to worry about weapons unless it's going to be a running back, but you can kind of find one in the later rounds, which we're going to get into when we get into the AFC North mock draft. Getting into the Buccaneers, though, tight end, edge, cornerback, and again, this is another team that's going to look at the secondary. I do think cornerback is kind of where they go here, and I've been big on Savon Ravel, but rewatching that Benjamin Morrison tape, he is elite. He is elite, seriously. I'm not going to call him generational, but he is an elite cornerback prospect, at least for this draft class. Outside, Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison has all the goods to be an island from this draft class, and I think he's going to translate very well to the NFL. Notre Dame defensively is playing very good football. Again, Morrison's been dealing with some injuries and stuff like that, but when he's on the field, he is complete clamps. So I think that's a guy that teams can look for and, trust that he's going to be, worth what they pick and what they pay for him. And staying on script with the Seahawks, we're literally just going to grab a tackle. Again, that right guard, right tackle spot, they need replacements immediately, and that's going to be where I hope that they focus the most on in this draft class specifically, especially at that tackle position, because there is a lot of dudes in that spot. Again, I've been keeping my ear towards the grapevine, talking to a lot of my guys that focus up on the trenches really, and Texas is up there in terms of offensive lines. They might have a top 3 offensive line, and having the 2 best tackles in this draft is going to boast wonders for these tackles' confidence for sure. So Cameron Williams going to the Seahawks, pretty much a no-brainer, unless you're going to take best guard available at that point, which is Booker. Still plenty of tackles that could have went, but Cameron Williams being there available at 15, pretty much a gift for the Seahawks. Getting into the Rams, and again, they're another team that I feel like they have to worry about what they're going to do with their future in terms of quarterback. But we're going to take a look at the corners right now, because again, Matt Stafford's not getting any younger. You could find him some protection if you want for the next 2 or 3 seasons that you're still going to have him. Puka's going to be coming back, or Puka's already back now from injury. Cooper Kupp back again. You got to hope that these guys just stay healthy so that way Matt Stafford can, perform. Not that he wasn't performing with the, receivers available, but obviously compared to guys like Puka Nacua and, Cooper Kupp, the talent level is going to be a little bit different. So essentially, you're looking at two positions here. You're looking at cornerback, you're looking at tackle. I don't think linebacker is in play, just yet. Maybe Jahad Campbell would be in play here. But I think Savon Ravel or Josh Simmons, obviously being best available, could be a spot. Emory Jones was a guy that I've been really high on because of the versatility that he offers. Not only that, 6'6", 315, another big unit guy from LSU, and I do think he rises up draft boards. And I'm going to take Emory Jones for the sake of this mock draft because he's actually one of those tackles that I've actually tapped into his tape, and I really like what I'm seeing. So back-to-back tackles gone off the board. We get into the Bears, and defensively, I think the defensive line could use just a little bit of a boost. Offensively, I'm trying to figure out still offensively just what's going on. Maybe it's the offensive line. Maybe they really do need a guard and a tackle, but I don't know. Like, I have to go back and watch the tape. Let me know in the comments below if you guys know or if you guys think it is the offensive line for the Bears that's really, tarnishing, what they should have been this season. I think Kenneth Grant, though, is going to be the safety net option pick here. You could go offensive line. Again, I just don't know if that's really the big problem. I don't want to say what I think is the big problem, but I got to figure it out. I got to watch some Bears tape, figure out what their biggest need is, really. Because right now, guard tackle kind of seems like an obvious one just because of, the record that they have. And then all the sacks that Caleb has been taking. I think he took, 9 sacks against the Patriots. So I guess I could have definitely took that into consideration. But for the safety net of this mock draft, we're going to take defensive line for the Bears. But I'll keep that in mind for the next one for sure. And Niners surprised me. They paid Diamadou Lenoir for a 5-year deal. So that means cornerback isn't going to be a need for them. Hufanga, on the other hand, is dealing with some injuries, and I still think Niners are going to be in the running for a safety. Now, I've said it before, and I've said it, and I'll say it again. I think Billy Bowman does rise up draft boards. I do think after he tests at the Combine, he's going to be a safety that finds himself going in the first round. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Oklahoma guy, but if you watch the tape, Billy Bowman has all the goods to translate extremely well at the NFL level. Going into the Broncos, Bo Nix is playing really good football right now. Defensively, they're pretty sound. Run game is so-so. You could look at a running back here. You could also look at a wide receiver here. So you kind of want to find yourself, a weapon for Bo Nix to have. I still think, Courtland Sutton's going to be the one there. As far as slots, it's still up for grabs. There's guys that are sort of making plays over there, but not too many guys that are really going to, move the needle in terms of, that's my slot for sure. I thought it was going to be Troy Franklin. Unfortunately, just this season hasn't been, as productive as I hoped for him. So I think wide receiver is going to be a look here. Obviously, someone like Luther Burden, Isaiah Bond, speedsters, but also running back. And I say that because there's some weapons here that can honestly boost your offense, and you don't have to worry about, was that a bad pick? Or, am I going to have to worry about that? Like, if you take a guy like Omarion Hampton, you take a guy like Caleb Johnson, these are all running backs that you can go ahead and just allow them to be your cowbell back as soon as they enter the league. Wide receiver being the biggest need, though, and because I don't want to get a whole lot of flack for it, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of the wide receivers. And I think for this one, I'm going to go ahead and take Luther Burden yet again. I almost took Isaiah Bond, but I think Luther Burden is going to test well. The tape alone, it's just, he has quality reps. I know this year productively, statistically, his production hasn't been, what it was last season, but his tape is just hard to deny. And then we get into the Texans. Running back, obviously, going to be the clear-cut option here. It's going to be between Omarion Hampton and Caleb Johnson. And Omarion Hampton has been playing really good football, and so is Caleb Johnson. So, essentially, it's a pick your poison. Now, do you want someone. I mean, essentially, they're kind of pretty much the same running back. I was gonna give a compare and contrast, but I'm really thinking about it now. They're the same running back. I got a lot of love for Caleb Johnson. I think I took him to the Texans last time, so I'm gonna take Omarion Hampton this time. I still think running back is gonna be the play for the Texans in the first round. Joe Mixon not getting any younger. Damian Pierce experiment completely done for. So yeah, I think that's where we see another running back go. And this is where we're going to see some our first linebacker go off the board. Because again, I've said it before, Falcons should have taken a freaking defensive player in the first round last year, but instead they took Michael Penix for whatever reason. But we're going to look at Jahad Campbell, the best linebacker in the nation right now. I have raved about Perkins, but that injury is going to play a little bit of a role in how teams draft him. So unfortunately, we do have to take, well, not unfortunately, but fortunately for Jahad, unfortunately for for Perkins, we do got to go ahead and take another linebacker over him. But do not sleep on Harold Perkins. I think after he comes back from the injury, he's going to do extremely well in the NFL. I mean, if we just look at the 4 games played and the stats accumulated, he was on his way to having a tremendous season. 6'1", 225 pounds. Done for the season, but still ranked extremely high. And if you watch the tape, you will know just why. And that rhymed. But outside of that, we're going to look at the Cardinals pick. So looking at their needs, we could look at some of the defensive linemen left over. Deion Walker and TJ Sanders, well worth a first-round pick. We could also look at some of the tackles available that could, protect Kyler Murray in the future. Josh Simmons worth that pick. Wyatt Millum. Some people are saying Blake Miller's worth a first-round pick. Blake Miller does give you some versatility because he has lined up in the guard a little bit more compared to some of the other guys left over. You could also look at linebackers. Again, Harold Perkins is a guy that I think still goes in the first round. Danny Stutzman, my Oklahoma guy, could be a guy that goes in the first round. I think Harold Perkins just offers a little bit more versatility compared to Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman, though, does bring the boom. He is a huge run stopper. I could be crazy for going back-to-back linebackers here. I really could. But it doesn't sound crazy when you look at, the players available. You look at the value for some of these guys. It doesn't really seem as crazy. And we're going to look at the tight ends for the Chargers. Now, Colston Loveland more than likely might be the Chargers' next tight end. Harbaugh's obviously going to love his Michigan guys. I do want everybody to start taking a look at Harold Fannin Jr., though, because he has all the tools to be a tight end 1 for this draft class. He is, I think, number 3 in receiving yards right now. Just broke Bowling Green's record for single receiving touchdowns as a tight end. He is an absolute monster at that position. So definitely take a look at Harold Fannin Jr.'s tape. Colston Loveland, though, I do think is going to be the first tight end off the board. He's just a great blocker, great pass catcher in terms of being a vertical threat. Again, he's a Michigan man. Harbaugh's going to love his Michigan Wolverines just a little bit more compared to some of the other guys in the draft. And we go ahead and look at the Packers, and they're a team that I really have to figure out, again, just like the Bears, what is going wrong with them. Defensive line could be a need. Cornerback could be a need. This is typically where we're going to look, for the Packers. We're not going to look at tackles right now. I do want to look at the defensive side of the ball for them. Obviously, the injury that Jordan Love has been dealing with, you kind of do want to look at the offensive line. But I think in terms of value, just looking at, the tackles and offensive linemen available, at least for the Packers, you can focus on the defensive side of the ball. I've said it before, Deion Walker and TJ Sanders are first round worthy. I know some of my earlier mock drafts, I was a little bit biased with that. Went ahead and looked at the tape, and the guys in the comments were right. Deion Walker and TJ Sanders, well worth that pick. And I'm going to take Deion Walker in the first. I'm going to take him to the Packers. I do think they need some help in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. I think second round, you can go ahead and focus up on the offensive side of the trenches, and then corners you can go ahead and focus on in the little bit later rounds. But at least in the first for the Packers right now, we're going to look at defensive line, Deion Walker being that guy. And Commanders actually took care of the biggest need that I had for them, which was cornerback, by getting Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints in a trade. So I think edge is where we're going to go here. And Nick Scorton being available at pick 25 is pretty much a gift for the Commanders. and top edge in the draft, probably edge one for a lot of people. I like Jack Sawyer from Ohio just a little bit more as my edge one. Nick Scourton, well worth that first round pick. Again, that's a gift for the Commanders. And we start getting into these teams that I just have a little bit of trouble finding out what their biggest need is. But I think for the Ravens, I'm going to stay on script and just take a cornerback. Best available, Savon Ravel. Again, if you watch the tape, you'll know exactly why I'm raving so high. 6'3", 193 pounds. He offers that prototypical length that you want for an NFL corner. And he has all the goods, literally, to just be an island cornerback. I raved about Quinyon Mitchell. I raved about Sauce. J.C. Horn was another one of my guys. Cornerbacks, I feel I can really hit a nail on. And Savon Ravel has, done everything to check off every box in terms of cornerbacks. And no-brainer here for the Steelers. Outside of Pickens, I think your wide receiver room is really, really subpar. And you need to go ahead and find another weapon. Now, where do you want to go with this weapon? Because there's a couple guys that can find themselves rising up the boards, especially, guys like Will Shepard from Colorado. Isaiah Bond still being available could be the best slot. Kyron Lacy still here, could be a little spooky. 6'2", though, I do project him as an outside receiver. So I think in terms of slots, you're probably just going to go ahead and take Isaiah Bond, a big speedster. You have Russell Wilson there, not really knowing how long he's going to be at the head of that offense. But you got Justin Fields waiting as well. Go ahead and just get your weapons now. Pickens is there. Running game is taken care of. Grab your slot wide receiver and start building that juggernaut. And getting into the Vikings, I think this is where we see another running back come off the board. If not, it's going to be a cornerback. But Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger, and he has, I would call a bipolar work rate. Because one game he looks like a pure RB1. One game he looks like he should be sharing carries with another running back. Not that that's a bad thing, because some of these running backs that are rookies could use that and use that veteran presence their rookie year. And especially a guy like Caleb Johnson, who I think can be a cowbell back at the next level. Putting him with a vet like Aaron Jones could do some wonders for him. Let Aaron Jones even be the receiving back for the Vikings next season. And let Caleb Johnson, be your power back. And let him go to work for you guys. I think that would be a great selection for the Vikings there. I think Caleb Johnson does find himself going in the first round. Top 3 in yards right now. Top 5 in touchdowns. He has all the goods. If you watch his tape, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting into the teams that are pretty much hard to find what we want to do with. Edge being the best available for the Eagles does seem like a no-brainer. Pretty much both linebackers that I would take in the first round off the board. So LT Overton being available is a gift. But again, I'm ranting and raving about Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. He has all the goods to be a first-round edge. I think after he tests at the Combine, you guys are going to understand why. Outside of the tape, because everybody can go watch that for themselves. Abdul Carter has an extremely well tape, but Jack Sawyer has a quick bend and burst to his game that I think is just going to propel him at the NFL level. And getting into the Bills, wide receiver still being a need for the Bills is a huge, huge necessity. I don't care what anybody says. And Kyron Lacy being here at 30 needs to be where the Bills focus their attention on. Kyron Lacy is a wide receiver 1. Like, LSU produces them every single season. So it's blowing my mind that he's even this low on the boards. Because watching his tape, he's another one of those guys. Statistically, not high production. Quality, though, the quality in reps is there. So the fact that Kyron Lacy isn't getting a first-round look is mind-boggling to me. But again, I do think after Pro Day, I do think after the Combine, he finds himself as a first-round target. Even, we still got a couple more weeks left in the college football season. He's going to find himself in the first round, one way or another. Mark my words on that. So we get into these last 2 picks, and this is typically where I've been having the most trouble, find what we're going to do for the Lions and the Chiefs. And I think for the Lions, pretty much just going to take best guard center available. It's going to be Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker does give you some versatility as he has lined up in the tackle slot as well. But he's the best guard available in this draft class. So I think that's kind of where Lions are going to focus their attention on. And then we get into the Chiefs, who Realistically, I think they just need to find a predecessor for Travis Kelce. I think he's got maybe 1-2 seasons at most left before he retires on his own 2 feet. I don't think he lets the game slip away from him. I think he takes the game and just rides on into the sunset. So I think they need to find an option to really replace him. Tyler Warren being the biggest Swiss Army knife at the tight end position, and Harold Fannin being the best receiving option at the tight end position are really where you want to go. And I think after the combine and after he tests really well, I think Harold Fannin does find himself, going a little bit higher than most people have him. And for that, I'm going to take Harold Fannin in the first round and let him go to the Kansas City Chiefs as Travis Kelce's predecessor. And there we have it, everybody. That's going to do it for this mock draft. Again, let me know in the comments below if you guys think anybody is too low or too high. Let me know who you guys think is really missing from this first round mock. I always appreciate the feedback. Let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys next Monday for Mock Draft Monday. Peace.